when I look at the list of speakers, it strikes me how Prairie Preview got all of the big names in Iowa.
Yes.
Dean Rusa, Carl Kurtz spoke several times. Mark Leschke, Dennis Schlicht, Jim Dinsmore. And these were people whom I think anybody working in natural history knew the names, knew the people tangentially, but somehow to bring them to Iowa City and to focus on their work for an hour was very, very special, I think.
John Madsen, who was author of Where the Sky Began, wrote about Tallgrass Prairie, and with words he created a dreamscape. In that he wanted to learn about prairie, and he actually went out hunting bison in the winter on foot with an old musket, and he painted this wonderful picture of walking through the snowstorm and the bison looming up out of the fog and all this sort of thing. It was a wonderful talk. It's clear in my mind. I just like the networking, and I've made a habit every time I go to Prairie Preview. I network with a bunch of people, and sometimes what I've done, I stand out on the sidewalk with something in my hands, and as people come in, I sort of push it at them. We talk about it, and 2 minutes later, there's somebody else, and I get a chance to talk to a whole lot of people very briefly, and I think that's one good thing that comes out of it. Other people have their own way of networking. Mine happens to be to push a sample at somebody. Yeah, I even came with a can of seeds. This is my next project.
And I agree with that. I sometimes do that as well, and it's the place where you're just person to person as the people are going into Prairie Preview in this first place, and telling them new good information about Prairie Preview.
So one of the blessings, I would say, of aging is that you realize that there's very little that you actually need in life, and that your remaining years should be spent in giving things away. And that can be money, it can be physical possessions, but it can also be your knowledge and your passion. And I find myself increasingly eager to share my knowledge and my thoughts with others in a way that will hopefully nourish action.
I think the bottom line on the future is children. And I think the single biggest thing one might be able to do is encourage children and young people to be involved. Occasionally, in the past, there have been field days of various kinds, and I think that's one good step. There's probably lots of other things one could do. I've never sat down and made up a list of these things, but that'd be one possibility.
I think that Prairie Preview, to date, has founded a tradition of speakers and people who come to present information at the booths. It's a forum for people to give away their information and their love for nature. And I think that's the tradition that's precious and that should be saved. And I think that that's a solid base for Prairie Preview going forward.
And so prairies have always meant a lot to me, and I think Prairie Previews have profoundly influenced the whole population in Midwest, and to the fact that we should be preserving prairie, that we should be buying native prairie and not let it go into cropland. We should be managing prairie. And that's, I think, where we're sort of at today, and I'm very happy with it.